Every day is a struggle for Ben Oakley.
He was diagnosed with stiff person syndrome in 2012.
The condition triggers potentially fatal muscle spasms.
He lost his ability to walk, shower, put his shoes on and even roll over in bed.
This condition has very little knowledge about it, which has been extremely difficult for us. To also be diagnosed at such a young age, at the age of 18, even though I was first symptomatic at 17, we believe that I am the only Indigenous person in Australia with this condition.
He was out on a training ride. He'd just done the Sydney to Wollongong cycle race 2 weeks before he was struck down by a 1 in a million neurological condition. Ben went from being unable to sit down to barely able to move. For any parent, that's been impossible to really comprehend.
Oh, calm down, mate. Calm down. Come on. Come on.
His blood pressure, his pulse, his temperature go up to incredibly dangerous levels. Movement hurts Ben. Any movement hurts him. So if I don't control that movement, if I don't stop him from kicking around, then he could very literally die. I never really explained to him at the time what I was seeing, but it scared the hell out of me. It still does. I have nightmares about watching my son go through that horrible, horrible circumstance.
During a spasm, it's the most terrifying thing I can express. It's like someone's holding a taser to my spine and I just can't stop kicking. Even though I've had in excess of 600 spasms, they're all terrifying. The worst episode I had was 61 spasms in 9 hours. One of those full body spasms went for 2 hours straight. Every single time I have an episode, no matter how short or how long it is, I am so exhausted I can't comprehend it. You know, worst part about that is I'm fully conscious. I can hear everything, feel everything. I can see what's going on around me, see the terror in my family's eyes, the people who are there trying to help ease the spasm.
That's it. Just calm down.
It's been clouded with uncertainty and medicinal cannabis use remains a hot topic.
We've been working on it for about the last year now and keeping an eye on what the government are saying, what the state and federal government are doing, the new legislation, as well as doing our scientific research.
I'd known about cannabis's potential use for neurological conditions for many years. I'd seen people with Parkinson's disease, with MS, have very radical effects from using cannabis as a treatment option. Now, knowing that Ben had a neurological condition, I knew that if he was to take a small amount of cannabis in the right way, that it should have a positive effect on him.
When my parents first sat me down and said, look, we want to consider this as an option, medicinal cannabis, I turned around and said no. I didn't believe in it, but I got to a point where the pharmaceutical medications that I was taking wasn't helping. I started to go downhill, so I needed something. I didn't want to go any further backwards.
On a good day, when he wasn't in exceptional amounts of pain, his pain was around a 7, sometimes an 8 out of 10. And we'll never forget the first time Ben took cannabis as a treatment. He took 1 capsule of medicinal cannabis oil, just 1. Half an hour later, he reported a pain of 3. That was literally the least pain Ben had been in at that stage for nearly 3 years.
State opposition today offered the Premier bipartisan support to change the law and help families where medicinal cannabis is the only effective form of pain relief.
And the only problem is the cost is so high, many families are still forced to get it illegally.
After witnessing the battle that Ben and his family have been through to try and obtain medicinal cannabis legally, I support this bill's intention to streamline the regulation.
When the federal government announced that they were making cannabis legal back in 2016, they set it up around a framework that was going to be very advantageous for big business, but not for people who needed it.
Since taking the first lot of medicinal cannabis, I haven't looked back. It's changed my outlook with this as a treatment. It's opened my eyes, even though at first I was very ignorant and uneducated to it. This has changed my life. So we decided to take a stance, and we have now become patient advocates for medicinal cannabis.
A New South Wales father and son have travelled to Adelaide to lobby the state government for urgent medicinal cannabis law reform.
Mr. Baird met a family who suffered more than most.
This is my son, Ben Oakley. I was going to put him in a coffin 3 years ago.
I don't know where I'd be without the oil. I'd hate to imagine it because I came very close to death.
While legislation is starting to change, patients who rely on cannabis oil say it's not moving fast enough.
I'm asking you.
No, we're begging you.
Okay. Please.
Anything's possible if you dedicate time and money to it. If I got $1 single from every Australian, just $1, that's $25 million. Drop a dollar for rare diseases is aimed specifically at using cannabis as a treatment option for rare diseases. This incredible plant needs its time in the sun. With study, with scientific recognition, options become available. It's not a cure, it just gives you an option to recover and hopefully find a better quality of life.
I lost a lot, and that's hard, but since all the rehab and since the medicinal cannabis, I have regained that independence.
I could not touch this part of Ben's back at all when he first came to see me, and probably not for the first 6 to 12 months. The change started to occur with medicinal cannabis, and the spasms reduced markedly. The reduction in fear, that actually allowed you to start to become more active. The days when you're better have certainly increased, and it's becoming more consistent. So you must be pacing pretty well.
This condition has changed my outlook on life. Prior to using cannabis, I didn't know where I was going, what I was going to be doing. Thanks to the options that I've got available right now, I feel like I do have a future. I do have something to look forward to, regardless of stiff person syndrome. I'm able to have a life again.
Ben wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for one simple herbal treatment, cannabis oil. End of story.